race higher on Yamaha machinery last year.
Yeah, and certainly for Van der Mark, it's been a tough season. Obviously, the win in Portimao, the highlight for him and for BMW. But overall, I think he would have expected a little bit more with that all-new package. But you're going to have to wait and see what they can do over the winter to see if they're able to find a more consistent package to bring that fight to the leading three. Big problem with all the manufacturers is Ducati, Kawasaki and Yamaha have been so consistent.
Tati Mercado, who's patient with MIE Honda, who missed 3 rounds earlier on in this season, has certainly been rewarded. A contract extension for him for 2022. Had a strong end to the European season in Portimao. His home round in Argentina last month was one to forget. Bounced back very nicely indeed with his best Super Bowl performance in 4 years. Tati Mercado, who lines up on the 4th row of the grid, and he is set to be joined by a teammate for next season, Hafiz Shireen, who will certainly provide a good benchmark. Tati Mercado on row number 4, alongside him Chaz Davies and Christophe Pinson, behind Isaac Vinales, as well as Michael Ruben Rinaldi and Samuele Cavalieri, and then the back row of the grid, Kota Nazane, Tito Rabat and Oliver Koenig. We'll continue on through the order, 18 riders in total. Of course, inevitably our focus on the top 2 in the championship, with the 2 riders who start on the very front of the grid. But plenty of stories further back down the order, including that of Chaz Davies, who made his return from 2 fractured ribs in Argentina, was still in some pain and also lacking in race fitness. Over 4 weeks later, he's bidding still for that 100th Superbike podium, his last all the way back in Estoril. And would certainly be a fitting way for him to sign off from the championship at the end of this season if he can manage it. We did see Loris Baz manage to pick up podiums on board that Go 11 machinery as well. So hopefully Chaz Davies is able to make an impression. It would be good to see him sign off with that last podium. Yeah,
hopefully Chaz is able to have a good finish to his World SBK career. Obviously, it's been a battle for him to get himself back to fitness. Nowhere near full fitness when he returned in Argentina. And hopefully we'll be able to see him have something to smile about at the end of today's running.
Completing the 4th row of the grid, it will be Christophe Pinson, the number 23 Yamaha. A couple of strong showings actually during the triple header. Hasn't had too much consistency to his results though, and failed to score entirely at the Argentinian round last time out. One of my favourite shots, the focus shot between Toprak Razgatlioglu and Jonathan Ray there in the top 2 positions.
Yeah, and you can see for Toprak just readying himself on the grid, 4 minutes until the start of this race, and he gets a little bit of good luck there from a few of the Yamaha personnel. You can see Colombo there on the grid just offering him one last bit of advice. And now for all of those leading riders, they're going to be keeping one eye in the skies. They've all made their tyre choice now, and it's going to be interesting to see if people go a little bit conservative. Obviously, the rain that's overnight and washing the track clean, that's going to make it where it's going to be quite harsh on some of the tyres. Some riders might opt for that harder tyre, the SC0 tyre, whereas some riders that might need to find a little bit of performance might take a bit of a gamble, go for the X tyre.
Drops of rain in Sector 1 appear on our information screen, our output here, and now it's immediately followed by drops of rain in Sector 4, and this is how it started yesterday, remember, with that heavy rain coming down in the 1st and 4th sector and all the way along the start-finish straight before we got the deluge that then forced the postponement of race number 1. But we're finally ready to get back up and running for a second time of asking 18 riders in total, but I tell you what, it may be that over the course of the next hour or so, we're only focusing on 2. For the first time since its inaugural season, the Motul FIM Superbike World Championship title will be settled at a brand new venue, and it is here at the Mandalika International Circuit. And we've just had information, firstly, that there were drops of rain appearing in sectors 1 and 4, and now that this start is going to be delayed as a result of the rain. So we're not going to get started until presumably the conditions stabilise one way or the other, either a wet race or a dry one.
Yeah, a bit inevitable once the rain starts to come in so close to the start. Everyone out there on slick tyres, and unfortunately we're going to have a little bit of a delay until we're able to see exactly what to do. So we'll wait and see how long that delay will be for. All the riders are going to do their best just to keep as dry as they can on the grid. You can see there for Jonathan Ray, he wants to get going because he knows in the changeable conditions, that's always been one of his fortes.
Yes, and the discussion yesterday as well was around the fact that everything seemed to be going against Jonathan Ray, not getting to race in wet conditions against Toprak, then not getting to have the Superpole race where he has generally dominated over the course of 2021. He'll feel at the moment that the world is against him. He would have wanted to just get started there and to try and put Razgatlioglu under some pressure. Yeah,
you can see the frustration for him, and now for Phil Marin there, just telling Toprak just to keep focused on the grid and just wait and see when we're going to be able to get this race started. But certainly for Jonathan Rea, he wanted to go out there. He wanted to be able to try and take the fight to Toprak. He knew that his best chance of being able to force something might have been in these changeable conditions. What we've seen from Toprak is in the stable conditions of full wet conditions, he's actually been quite strong this year. The changeable conditions, though, can always throw a few spanners in the works.
It does feel unusual to have a delayed start with only drops of rain at the moment appearing, but clearly the decision is being made to ensure that the conditions are stable at very least before racing gets underway.
Yeah, and I think it's not too much of a surprise to see them make that delay, but we'll wait and see what the weather does. If we end up with a little bit more rain or if we end up in these similar conditions, what is going to be key is that the riders are going to have to make a decision on which tyre to use. So they'll want more rain to come down to make it a wet track, maybe go out in the intermediates. Given what we saw yesterday, full wets might be the best option, and then make a decision on what to do. They obviously don't want to be in a position where you're out there on completely the wrong tyres, out in slicks, and then it starts to really hammer down. So probably the right decision just to have that bit of a delay.
What they don't want most of all, Toprak, Razgatlioglu and Jonathan Rea, is to be on split strategies, one on one tyre and one on the other. That's particularly what Toprak won't want.
Yeah, and everyone's going to be keeping an eye on what everyone else is doing, seeing if there's a change of tyres, and if anyone does decide to opt from their slicks, and you could easily have a bit of a double bluff in a situation like that as well.
Well, we'll wait for confirmation to come in here as to what we will be doing in terms of the new schedule. You can see along the bottom of your screen weather conditions, drops of rain in the first and the fourth sector have caused a slight delay to the scheduled start. Of course, we have got to be mindful that we've got a fair schedule to get through here today, and that when I looked at the weather forecast ahead of today's action, I couldn't find the island of Lombok, and the reason is it was shrouded, let's say, in the wet weather that's supposed to be coming later on this afternoon. From 2 p.m. onwards, Lombok is rain.
Yeah, and it's a big island as well. There's 3.5 million people on this island, so it's not a small part of Indonesia, and it does look like it's going to get covered over the course of today. So certainly that's where it's really critical for these guys to be able to get out for race one and see what happens. But certainly it is going to be a wet day at some stage today. Hopefully we're able to get this race underway pretty soon and see what happens in that championship battle.
Yes, I really do hope that we will get underway and get a full complement of races, or as full a complement as has been possible after the cancellation, of course, of the Superpole race this weekend. These are moments where you want to call on experience.
What's interesting is on our timing screens, you can see there at the bottom of the screen it's saying drops of water in sectors 1 and 4. We actually don't have anything on our timing screens now to say drops of rain in any of the sectors. We do get that any time that there's rain, so we are still waiting to see an update. There you go. Well, there is still some rain falling down there on the back end of the circuit.
Yes, so presumably still in the same 4 sectors that the notification came from. That was a close-up shot of a puddle, and even your ability to recognise corners, I don't think you'd be able to manage it with just a close-up of a puddle. But as Perariba stalks away from the grid, these are more nervous moments for the riders, particularly those involved in this championship fight, of course.
Yeah, and it is interesting to see that the rain does seem to have pushed away from the start line. We don't seem to have anything outside of our commentary box, so that would be pushed towards the beaches down at turn 10. So you can see from the crowd in the hillsides here that they've all got their umbrellas up. We've seen everyone out with their Macs on as well now, so everyone just trying to keep themselves as dry as possible. But certainly if we do have more rain coming down, that's always to the advantage. You can see for Jonathan Rea, just maybe a change of helmet there, maybe changing to a slightly less smoked visor there as well on the grid.
Notice the 3-minute board was still being shown at the side there on the starting grid, and the countdown was still going at 2.5 minutes as well. So not sure whether there's anything to read into that, as the riders seem to be preparing themselves as best as possible at very least.
Yeah, you can see Jonathan Rea put his helmet back on, Chaz Davis putting his gloves back on, so maybe the riders just making sure they're able to keep themselves ready. I did see some mechanics